Hi, this is Ferre with TaxSaleSupport.com. I'm here with Stephen Swenson, and in this video, we're going to answer some of the questions that we get from our followers on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, and in this new series, that's exactly what we're going to do. Is we're going to highlight some different questions and try to explain them in a video format.
Yeah. So we get questions all the time. Here is one of the questions that we got from Nancy, and that is, please explain roll-up and the different ways it is applied by different counties.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a question we get a lot. Now, when we talk about roll-up, really, roll-up refers to any other property tax liens that have been issued against the property.
Yeah, because property tax liens have a tremendous amount of power. Properties can't be transferred as long as there's a tax lien placed against them, and that includes, you being able to even foreclose on the property. You can't foreclose on the property if there are other liens that are placed against it. Those liens have to be paid off, and that's essentially what the roll-up is the other liens that have to be paid off in order to foreclose on it.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're looking at that 1 year of tax liens, that's only going to represent 1 year. Depending on the state, there could be many additional liens or many other years of back taxes that still could be against the property.
Yeah, so if a tax lien has a redemption period that's longer than 1 year, which most states do, for instance, Colorado has a 3-year redemption period, Florida has a 2-year redemption period. What that means is that you can have multiple liens against the property, and you will if you need to foreclose on it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, every state is going to have a different time frame on how long the tax lien certificates will stay valid. For example, you just talked about Florida. Florida has a 7-year, what we call life of lien, meaning that tax liens can be on their books for 7 years before they end up no longer be enforceable and the investor will lose their tax lien certificate. Arizona, it's 15 years. That means there could be up to 15 years worth of additional tax liens against that property that we're going to need to research before buying it, so that we know the total amount that we have to pay if we do foreclose on the property.
Yeah, what that also does is it means that your roll-up concerns are not the same in every state. In states where they don't allow as many years, to survive, there's less of a concern there about past due taxes than, in other states, like Arizona or Florida, where they allow quite a few.
Yeah, New Jersey, Maryland, in most of those situations, you need to foreclose within 2.5 to 3 years. So we're still going to research the roll-up in those areas, but it's not going to be the same as in an area where there could be 7 or 15 years worth of back taxes.
Yeah. Now, the best way to find out about roll-up is ultimately when you're looking at a lien, it's the property itself that we're doing the research on. And when we're doing that research, what we need to look into is the tax records and the tax, basically payment history on the property, because that's what's going to tell us if there have been liens issued in the past and, what happened with those liens.
Yeah, Shade's exactly right. The tax records are going to be kept by the treasurer, the tax collector, and we can research these tax records, usually using the parcel number, and we can go ahead from there and review any of the back tax liens that may be issued against the property. Sometimes we'll look into tax liens and we'll see that there has actually been liens that have been paid off in past years.
Yeah, which is always a sign that the property's most likely going to redeem. You've got somebody that's actively paying them off. They're probably going to pay off your liens as well.
Yeah. Now, here's a tax lien certificate that I was looking in the over-the-counter list, and this one had actually just sold. But in looking at it, using these online websites, it actually gives us some pretty good information just looking at the online auction site.
Yeah, so we can see from here that, it's a vacant piece of property, 0.23 acres, so a quarter-acre lot. We can see the face amount of the lien is $2,226, but there are 7 additional unpaid certificates. What that means is that there's a maximum number of years. It means that there was probably, if the oldest one we have here is 2013, last year, 2012 was still on there, but they drop off.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's nice about these real auction and Grant Street type systems is you can click into the certificate history. So we can see the certificate history up there at the top. And if we were to click in that, then we could see actually which tax liens are against the property. and what that face amount was when it was initially offered.
Yeah, so here, we can see the certificate history on this property. We can see these past liens. So, for 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, and 13, and we can see these are all actually open.
Yeah, well, in addition to that, we also have the 2020 is this year as well. So we have all of these different tax liens. None of them have been paid off. And if we actually look at the buyer information, we can see that a bunch of those are actually still county-held liens.
Yeah.
Only 2 of them the ones with numbers, appeared to have an actual investor that bid on. And because they got it at 18%, probably means they bought it over the counter.
Yeah. Now, if we were to look at the tax record for this same property, it would show us basically, what had been paid and what hasn't been paid, and this allowed us to see what the total amount is, that would be required in order to pay off all of these. Because that's essentially, if we wanted to foreclose on the property, is what we would have to do. We'd have to be willing to pay off all these liens.
Yeah, well, and really, in looking into this, we can see that the last year they paid was actually 2010. Even though they had tax liens older than that, those tax liens had fallen off as well. So if we were to go ahead and look at all of these tax liens combined, we're talking about over $12,000. Also one thing to consider as well is that the tax liens at the bottom tend to be, these ones here are for only $1,300 and $1,100. Well, we just know that this year's tax lien was $2,200. The next year's probably going to be $2,200 as well. So we're actually going to be going up in that total amount due, because if we just bought the tax lien, we have 2 years to foreclose.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's probably going to be $18,000 in back tax and roll-up by the time we're able to foreclose on this property.
Yeah, a significant amount, really.
Yeah, so suddenly the lien, when we talk about lien to value ratio, we're talking about the total amount owed versus the property value. Here just right now it's a 50%. But in 2 more years, it'll probably be closer to 60%.
Yeah, it's definitely going up, very quickly there at that $2,200 plus a year. So yeah, that's an example of a toxic lien. It's right on the border, where the amount owed on the property is almost making it, or it's not worth looking.
Yeah, it's one that we would not purchase it, and also by seeing that nobody else has purchased it as well, except for a few years ago, that's a bit of a warning sign, in addition.
Yeah, so here's another tax lien for us to look at. This one is a lien amount, has a face amount of $31,000, and it looks like it's on a property that's 1.26 acres of vacant commercial land, valued at $164,000.
Yeah, well, in looking at this, we love the size, 1.26 acres. We love the value, $164,000, but we're looking at $31,000. Now, I don't know why the property taxes are so much higher. I mean, at $31,000, that's,
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's like 25% of the property value per year.
Yeah.
But let's look into this tax lien a little bit further by looking into the certificate history.
Yeah, so looking into the certificate history here.
Yeah, we can see that there's quite a few different tax liens issued against the property. All of them essentially earning 18% interest rate, which means that each one of those tax liens is going up in value at 18%.
My goodness, look at that amount.
Well, and if we click over and actually look at the tax record, this is where it really exploded.
Holy cow. So look at all those liens against them. And now, because, the ones from 2014 and 15 are up to $54,000 now, with all the penalties and fees over all this time. I mean, that is a total amount right now. The roll-up on this property is $313,000.
Yeah, so to foreclose on this $164,000 lot, we would essentially have to pay $313,000. This is what we call a toxic tax lien. This is what we teach our students to avoid and to look into before they ever buy, because you could just be looking at that initial tax lien and thinking, hey, that might not be that bad. Yeah. But when you look into the true history, that's where it's going to tell us, is this a good investment or is this a bad investment?
Yeah, and this one's definitely an example of a bad investment. If you bought that, if you spent the $25,000, or $30,000 to buy this, you would lose your money.
Yeah, you're essentially throwing your money away.
Yeah.
So it's so important to review the roll-up before buying. It can make a big difference in these years that have multiple years. But it's important to check even if it's a 2 or 3 year redemption period, just so you know what those costs are going to be to foreclose. In addition, there'll be foreclosure cost on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to understand what the cost is going to be to foreclose. If it's something that you need to do, especially when you're looking at buying potential liens, and it's also something that's easy to check for and to be sure of. We just need to basically make sure the properties that we pick up have good value, and that it's not going to cost us more to foreclose on them than it's worth, as an investment. And that's really what we're checking here with roll up.
Yeah, a lot of times we won't want to buy tax liens that are 25 to 30% of the property's value when it's all combined. There may be properties that if they had a high enough value, let's say there was a $300,000 property and you could foreclose on it and pay off everything for $150,000 and still make $150,000, then it could be worth looking at. But in a lot of times, those aren't going to be the kind of tax liens, because those kind of tax liens have already been foreclosed on.
Yeah.
Somebody's not going to wait 7 years to foreclose on it.
Yeah.
So if there is a history of unpaid tax liens,
it's always a bad sign.
Yeah, it's definitely a worrying sign.
Yeah. So, if you have more questions about this, or you'd like more information, we have a lot more information you can actually get on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, so if you guys have questions, go ahead and check out our YouTube channels, Tax Sale Secrets or Shade Ferre at Tax Sale Support. Then we also have our Facebook pages. We have our Tax Sale Support page, but we also have our Tax Sale Support group, which is a public group. You can apply for it and become a member, and that's an option as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that next time we put out a video, you know.
Yep, thanks again.